Welcome to the Loremaster series, a series where I take you to each zone in the World of Warcraft. With the release of patch 7.3.5, the world scales with your level. For now, we will focus on the classic zones of the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. Want to know if a zone is fun or not? A good storyline, major lore characters that you're interested in, an epic quest that you just have to play at least once, or maybe you want to see what the zone entails for the opposite faction, as I endeavour to cover both the Alliance and Horde where possible. And also, maybe you just simply want to hear about a zone you've never played. I aim to provide you with my commentary, so be aware of spoilers as I dissect each zone. Be sure to comment below what you want to see in the videos going forward, or what zone you want me to cover, or even what faction I cover as well. So join us as we Loremaster our way through the World of Warcraft. Now we venture to Westfall, and it is a stark contrast to the greenery of Elwyn Forest, directly east and joined by a bridge. Also to the southeast, a bridge connects to Duskwood. And beyond the dam and the Dagger Hills to the south, northern Stranglethorn Vale can be seen, but out of reach, unless adventurers want to risk their lives swimming or mountaineering. What once was green grass has now yellowed, and what once were vibrant fields full of harvest are now nothing more than haystacks and filled with bandits and dangerous wildlife, such as ravenous coyotes and vultures. Westfall was once a proud land of farmers. However, now thieves, gnolls and other wildlife disrupt their way of life. Harvest golems are malfunctioning and terrorising the farmers. Life seems to have drained from the land, as many plains have become barren with drought, and due to the attacks of the Defias, the farmers could not treat and care for the land like they once could, when it was full of rolling green pastures. The small town of Moonbrook, to the south of the region, was once a vibrant town, but now has disintegrated to nothing more than abandoned buildings for the wary homeless travellers. The Defias stronghold is harboured here, in the Deadmines, and sightings of their kind is spotted throughout the dark shadows of Moonbrook. Similar to that of Elwyn Forest, the Jangalode mine has attracted greedy kobolds who are working with the Defias to fill their coffers. And to the far southwest, a lighthouse is erected on a small piece of land, and it is said that the ghost of a former captain resides there. After the recent events of Cataclysm, much of Westfall remained unscathed. However, most of the Gold Coast quarry has been swallowed up and formed a chasm where floating chunks of rocks and trees surrounding a light pillar at its epicenter. Along with this, cyclones sweep across the land, and any adventurer who gets sucked up will be tossed into the air and hurling them to their deaths potentially. The only major hub in the area is secured for the Alliance once again, at Sentinel Hill. However, this area is now overrun with travellers seeking shelter, which places the guards in an awkward predicament. Along with this, the gnolls have assaulted the base for reasons unveiled shortly in this storyline segment, and thus concludes a brief history and geography into Westfall. For this video, I'll be combining the lore and creature segment together, as I feel it's very fitting for how Westfall plays as a story. Westfall was once a rich agricultural region. However, once the Alliance reclaimed Elwyn Forest and rebuilt Stormwind in the aftermath of the Second War, the lack of funding meant they spent little time concerned for the well-being of its neighbouring region. To that effect, the people became bitter, and the bandits of the Defias Brotherhood reigned supreme. It is a fallow and forgotten region, but things have shaped up slightly since the events of the Cataclysm, where Stormwind has regained control, but the memories are not forgotten. The shadows cannot be forgotten, and people are biding their time to rise up and retake the land from the crown. For what little farming remains in Westfall, the farmers produce only enough food to feed themselves. They are now pestered by hungry travellers and raiders, Fierce coyotes walk amongst the dust-ridden fields, preying vultures looking for the remains of scraps to feast upon, and deadly boars shuffle and stampede over any crops the farmers try to plant. Interestingly, the harvest golems, who look like mechanical scarecrows at first glance, are programmed to exterminate the humans, and these dominate the farmyards. However, many of these are now malfunctioning since the events of the Cataclysm. And who other than the goblins created these constructs? To create carnage in their wake? Who knows? Perhaps some witty gnomes in the future will be able to reprogram these into guardians to protect the farmers, or even do their chores for them. As we travel westwards to Longshore, we will encounter gnoll encampments. Gnolls have also replaced many Defias camps surrounding the Dust Plains and the Dagger Hills to the south, and are present in huge numbers. But not as all as it seems. Nobles once again inhabit the mine and are digging for precious metals and gold for their employers, aka the Defias. The gorgeous Longshore itself, however, is not a peaceful walk along the beach at sunset. It is quite the opposite, as it's littered with large crabs and murlocs. And for those who wish to take a dip in the ocean, will be met with shark-infested waters. Shipwrecks feature along its coastline, and the spirit of a helpless Captain Grayson reminds us all of this too well, as he retells the story of how he and his pirate crew ended their lives because the lighthouse was not lit that night. The leader of the Murlocs, Old Murkeye, ordered the rest of his kind to raid the lighthouse and scare the inhabiting family away. After this failed to work, Murkeye had the family killed, and now Captain Grayson feels it's his responsibility to keep the lighthouse lit and avenge the fallen family and his crew. As a fun trivia fact, many RP players use his torch, which can be received upon taking out Old Murkeye. The Defias Brotherhood was led by Edwin Van Cleef, and chose Westfall as their new home after failed attempts at controlling Elwyn Forest. Stormwind was not concerned by these actions, as the leadership had higher priorities, such as orcs and demons. However, Stormwind was about to miss out on the rich agriculture Westfall had always provided, and due to the ransacking and farmers unable to defend or farm their crops, the land suffered from neglect. The population was reduced to living a poor life, whilst the Brotherhood lived a superior life, and the bandits did everything in their power to protect their newly claimed land and treasures. In time they converted the dead mines into their stronghold, and it would not be until the people rose into a militia and recruited would-be heroes to strike back and take the land that was theirs, that Edwin Van Cleef and his lackeys met the ultimate price. Now that a few years had passed since those events and the Cataclysm, it was only now Stormwind reinforced the region and kept the Defias confined in the Dead Mines, where refugees also harbour. Moonbrook is alliance held, but nowhere reinforced compared to the new and improved Sentinel Hill, where refugees roam to Moonbrook and Sentinel Hill for a place to stay. All is not well for Westfall, and history always seems to try repeat itself. The shadows of the Defias loom once more. It's a bloodbath, Lieutenant. They've been murdered. Given the body temperature, I'd say they've been dead no more than 6 hours. Damn shame what they did to old Blanchy. No kidding, rookie. Looks like they really put the cart before the horse. Yeah! Disclaimer, he does not say yeah. With the lore behind us, let's look at the present situation in Westfall that we, the player, experienced during our journey. The overarching storyline is heavily inspired from the CSI TV series, where we follow Lieutenant Horatio Lane in his investigations. Beginning the zone off, we stumble into our first tragedy. After learning of the Firlbrow murders, including their well-known horse Blanchy, we are tasked to scout for clues from nearby drifters. Not yielding any concrete results, we approach the nearby knoll and Murlocs near Longshore, in which Lieutenant Horatio Lane deems as a last resort, as he feels he has no lead, and he's quite right. Turning up fruitless, he tasks us to investigate the farm of the Firlbrows and seek out Two-Shoed Lou. Lou has concerns over the no-balls and knows a meeting is due to take place in the back of the Django Lobe mine, whilst other onlookers task you with some kill and collect quests. The mysterious figure mocks Glubtalk for his little mining operation and offers him the chance to join her. Needless to say further, he does, and once reporting the news to Two-Shoed Lou, he knows thugs are meeting behind the barn, where we find out these thugs were hired hitmen to take out the Firlbrows for this mysterious woman, all for gold. But one could argue that it's Stormwind's fault for not stepping in sooner. It's Stormwind's fault for not trying to help the people, instead of having them resort to criminal activity to get by. But with the armies of Stormwind spread so thin with the wars, it shows with all the mercenaries, Knoll uprising, kobolds infesting a mine under an ogre, they don't quite yet have a tight grasp on the situation. And the best they are going to do is dispatch an investigator to look into the matter further. But have no fear, Lieutenant Horatio Lane is on the case, with his sunglasses always within arm's reach. You were standing right there. What the hell did you see? Speak up.
I didn't see nothing. He died of natural causes.
Natural causes? 2 bullets in the chest and his shoes are on his head? What kind of natural death would that be? Doesn't look too good, rookie. This was an execution. Whoever did this was sending a message. A message for anyone that would dare snitch on these criminals. It would appear the poor Lou really did put his foot in his mouth.
Yeah!
Lieutenant Horatio Lane tasks you to head to see the old couple over at Saldine's farm. Although their farm is overrun with watchers, the couple are resilient. Saldine tasks you with some kill quests, while his wife Salma asks you to create a special stew to feed the orphans at their farm, and give you some as a reward. Upon completing, you find out they adopted a daughter and named her Hope, after a girl popped up on their farm one day 5 years ago and claimed to not know her identity. Saldine tasks you to visit the Alliance-occupied Sentinel Hill upon your completion of the tasks. Upon arriving at Sentinel Hill, we are greeted by a throng of travellers desperate to seek shelter. Inside, we meet Hope Saldine and also Gryan Stoutmantle, key players to the storyline. As Hope Saldine grew up and honed her skills all the while, the war against the Lich King had finished, and those assigned to the Grizzly Hills, namely Gryan Stoutmantle, came back to reinforce Westfall. What Hope noticed was that anyone who was not in the army or did not have a good job became poor. From the masses, she watched as daily they increasingly became more hostile towards the Sentinel Hill guards because all they wanted was food and shelter, but the guards gave no remorse. On top of this, gnolls were also assaulting, and you were tasked to take out these gnolls, discover their battle plans, and find out what has caused their uprising. All whilst Hope wants you to feed the starving. This segment that's playing out now is not exactly the highest point of human society. It's definitely not one of our finest moments. And the guards are resorting to insults such as calling the people who just want a decent meal, want a decent night's sleep for once, calling them bums. Upon returning back, having completed our tasks, we can see a little exchange between Brian Stoutmantle and Ripschnarl, one of the Worgen that were captured and now is in the stocks. We are sent to find Agent Carnan somewhere in the dust plains, near a tower that needs to be investigated next. Along with this, we're tasked to clear out even more gnolls and their leader, or at least their supposed leader. Entering the tower under the influence of an invisibility potion has allowed us to see an exchange between the corrupt goblin Helix, who provided the distraction the mysterious woman had wanted with the Watchers and the Gnoll assaults. It had been keeping the defenders of Sentinel Hill busy and scattered as the pieces came together for the master plan. One last task remained: to rally as many of those people who began to hate the crown as much as she did, tonight in Moonbrook. Gather, brothers and sisters. Come all and listen. Brothers, sisters, we are abandoned. The orphaned children of Stormwind. Our king sits atop his throne, made of gold, and shrugs at our plight. Meanwhile, our children die of starvation on these very streets. His war, not ours, cost us our livelihood. We paid for the Alliance's victories with our blood and the blood of our loved ones. The time has come, brothers and sisters, to stop this injustice. The government of Stormwind, of the Alliance, must be made accountable for what it has done to us. Today, we are reborn. Today, we take a stand as men and women, not nameless, faceless numbers. We are brought back to the past 5 years previously in the Deadmines to witness a group taking down the Defias leader, Edwin Van Cleef. And this is where the plot twists. The shadows of the Defias linger to this day, and the past is about to haunt us as our mysterious villain is unmasked. Vanessa Van Cleef is the surviving daughter of Edwin Van Cleef, a secret he kept known to a few. After watching 5 members of the Alliance kill and behead her father in front of her in the Deadmines, she fled and vowed vengeance. She found herself on the Saldine farm, lied to them that she did not know who she was, and bided her time. As we found out already, they named her Hope. As we found out earlier, she waited for the right time to gather key allies such as Glubtok, the ogre, and his Noballs, and Helix, the goblin, with his Watchers and Gnolls. Lastly, she recruited a new admiral for the Juggernaut, the Defias ship in the Deadmines where her father met his end. Ripsnarl is a Worgen who had been captured, and to set the final stage of her plan, she needed him free so she could use that ship to attack the crown itself in Stormwind. And the only way to free him is to overrun Sentinel Hill. With all the pieces of her game set in motion, the day of reckoning had come, and she burns Sentinel Hill and captures Brian Stoutmantle, Lieutenant Horatio Lane and others, and also frees Ripsnarl. You were spared because you unwittingly helped her, and you are warned to see the king by Brian Stoutmantle. And upon doing so, the king agrees to send soldiers to Westfall to defend against the Defias. Now that matters had cleared up, the last task was to pursue the leaders into the Deadmines, just like the group of adventurers had done 5 years previously. The shadows lingered, they reminded, they bided their time, and now the Defias have come back from the shadows, and what were once memories are no longer memories. They are very real and a very real threat. It's time to put an end to them. But the only problem is, if we successfully denounce Vanessa, dethrone her from the Juggernaut, it will take Stormwind to properly look after Westfall, or this will all happen all over again. Will history repeat itself in the future? Who knows? So when it comes to the overall questing as a rating, I would give it a 3 out of 5. The quests generally are kill and collect quests. However, there are some deviations to this where you have a little bit of stealth, but the stealth will be involved for storyline purposes, such as revealing the big villain at the end, getting that backstory. So they are a little bit on the side, so that definitely brought it up. The kill and collect quests, they're fine for what they are. Delivering the Westfall stew and feeding it to the poor, that was lovely. And then there's also a bit of a unique side quest where you have to find some buried treasure. In vanilla, this was a bit more challenging due to the fact you didn't have the place marked on your minimap, whereas nowadays it's just pretty much open up your map, and that's the location, do this 4 times and you get some simple treasure. But back in the day, it felt better to have discovered this all on your own. Right now, there's really no thought behind it. Moving on then, we have the storyline, and as you've probably heard, I have really put my heart into telling the storyline of Westfall. I believe it's a fantastic background history, and if we went even further into Defias, it's very fascinating. I gave the storyline 4 out of 5. The only reason why I marked it down, because it is fantastic, and the CSI references, it is hilarious, and you know, it's a great little plot twist at the end, and with Vanessa having a backstory built up, and you get to see the dungeon bosses as you progress. It's fantastically done. The only reason why I'm marking it down 1 is due to the fact that at the end, when you do return back to Gryan Stoutmantle after meeting with the king, he pretty much tells you, oh, we don't have time for this right now, go to Redridge, they have things that needs to be done. Basically, they're repeating history and saying, we have other things that need more pressure right now than dealing with the Defias. Where, no, we want to go into the dungeon and stop them right now. So I did feel just at the end was a little letdown on the storyline. Gameplay and storyline are not just 2 methods that provide immersion in games, but also music plays an important part. And the music in Westfall is particularly so nostalgic that so many people would simply just go there just to listen. And even in vanilla, I'm quite sure that Dorotar and Mulgore in Kalimdor, the Horde civilized areas, would have the exact same music as Westfall as well. It showed how powerful that was, and it united players on both sides with one thing in common: the music. The music is fantastic. I'll give the music 4 out of 5 for the memories. It's just amazing. Next up, we have creature diversity, and I really can't fault a creature diversity as diverse as this. You have lots of land, flying, and even and aquatic creatures also in the mix here, from anywhere from gnolls and murlocs to sharks and crabs, all the way up to an ogre. Although you don't directly fight him until the dead mines, you have an ogre. You have kobolds, lots of different types of gnolls, lots of different types of thugs, defias, bandits. You have vultures, coyotes, boars, harvest watchers, and you have mercenaries as well, elite mercenaries. You have a huge variety of people that you interact with, whether you kill them directly or not. It's great to see such a large cast present. Finally, we have the landscape. Now this would be a little bit of a lower choice for me due to the fact that I don't particularly like the colour palette all that much. Now I completely understand why it's like that, because it went from a very green area to a very fallow area due to the fact that it was mistreated over the years. So from just that perspective, that gains points. That definitely is something you'd have to consider. However, that does not make it exactly satisfying to go through. Most of the colour palette is yellow or brown, so it would be nice to see a little bit of diversity in the palette. Of course, when you get into the dead mine, it varies there. Also on Longshore it varies a bit, but overall it's very dead. It's not alive, which fits once again fantastically with the lore. However, just as a sightseeing piece, which this is all about, it's just pretty much just a flat land for the most part. Of course, this has changed with Longshore, and then you have the Raging Chasm. You have a little bit of underground with the mines as well, and if you go into dead mines, you also have that diversity there too. But overall, it's a bit of a bland and plain zone, but fantastic for the lore that's involved with it. So definitely 3 out of 5 for that. With 19 out of 25 overall points for Westfall, I'm going to give it a score of 3 3/4 falling glubtocks out of 5. If you like me, make sure you subscribe. And if you don't like me, well, subscribe anyway. What's the harm? Check out all those social media, follow, like. I like likes. Do you like likes? I like likes too. And I got one of those Patreon things if you like support and stuff, but I don't expect that. But thank you anyway. Thanks for watching. Good luck and have a good one. But before I go, remember always to flex. Yeah.